There is a moment many people experience during hair loss that is difficult to explain unless you have lived it yourself. You catch your reflection unexpectedly, maybe in a shop window, maybe under harsh lighting, maybe in a photograph somebody else took. And for a split second, you do not quite recognize yourself, not physically, emotionally. And I think that is why hair loss affects so many people more deeply than society often acknowledges, because it is rarely just about hair. Over the last 20 years, I have spoken to thousands upon thousands of patients from all over the world, different ages, different backgrounds, different stages of loss. And despite all the differences, the emotional patterns are often remarkably similar: anxiety, hyper awareness, loss of control, denial, obsessive thinking, avoidance behaviors, constant comparison. I know this because I experienced much of it myself. I have had 13 hair transplants over the course of my own journey. And if I am being completely honest, there were periods where my focus on fixing my hair became unhealthy. I convinced myself that if I could somehow solve the hair loss problem, everything else emotionally would improve too: confidence, identity, self esteem, peace of mind. But life rarely works that way. And one of the biggest lessons I have learned over time is this: hair loss is not something most people solve, it is something they manage. And that shift in mindset changes everything. Because once you stop chasing a perfect endpoint, you begin thinking more clearly and more strategically. You stop reacting emotionally to every shed, every photograph, every bad haircut, every online marketing promise. You begin thinking long term. And long term thinking is probably the single most important thing missing in modern hair restoration, because this industry often thrives on urgency. Act now, book quickly, limited availability, fix it immediately. But biology does not care about urgency. Hair loss is progressive, which means your strategy also needs to be progressive. And that is where medical therapy becomes important, not because it is perfect, not because everybody responds identically, and certainly not because it is glamorous, but because stabilizing hair loss matters, preserving existing hair matters, donor management matters, timing matters, and perhaps most importantly, emotional readiness matters. Because sometimes the best decision a person can make is actually waiting, especially younger patients, especially people making decisions from panic rather than perspective. Over the years, some of the best outcomes I have seen came from patients who slowed down, educated themselves properly, stabilized first, and approached surgery conservatively. And equally, some of the worst outcomes I have seen came from people chasing quick emotional relief without fully understanding the long term implications. Because donor hair is finite. Once it is over harvested or used poorly, there are limitations that cannot always be corrected later. And unfortunately, not enough people are told that early enough. This is one of the reasons I wanted to create the Hair Loss Lab: not to create fear, not to push surgery, not to convince people they need treatment, but to create calmer, more honest conversations around hair loss, to help people step back emotionally before making permanent decisions physically. Because ultimately, the goal should never be perfection. It should be sustainability, perspective, confidence, and helping people feel more like themselves again over the long term. I'm Spencer Stevenson, and this is the Hair Loss Lab podcast.